of company.
Tonight on Ctv3 News, shooting incident outside Belmopan supermarket leaves one injured. Family of Belizean grandmother in ICE custody seeks compassion and assault charges. CARICOM chair MIA Motley warns of economic perils from U.S. tariffs, calls for regional unity and enhanced trade partnership. And opposition leader Tracy Panton convenes National Party Council meeting amid UDP constitutional changes debate. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Monday, April 7th, 2025.
Coming soon, Pro FC 16. Get ready for an electrifying night of combat sports as Pro FC takes over the Princess Vegas Hotel and Casino in Corazon on Saturday, May 17th, 2025. Witness 14 adrenaline-fueled fights featuring the fiercest competitors from Belize, Mexico, Canada, and Guatemala, all battling for glory and supremacy in the ring. Pro FC 16. Don't just watch the action. Be part of it. Pro FC 16, exclusive on the Express Plus app.
Get the most out of your internet with Centaur's ExpressNet. Are you ready to supercharge your online experience? When connecting to your Velo mesh device, make sure you're linked to our blazing fast 5 GHz frequency. Why 5 GHz? Faster speeds at a shorter range. 5 GHz is perfect for use in smaller spaces where speed is your top priority. As for the 2.4 GHz, while connection may travel farther, it can lead to slower performance. Remember, choose 5 GHz for your devices and experience the difference instantly. ExpressNet, bringing you the best speeds for the ultimate online experience. For more information, contact us at 380-0101.
Good evening with your news also simulcast on Face FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. A shooting incident on Saturday afternoon outside the T&J supermarket in Belmopan left Jamal Hyde nursing a gunshot wound to his upper right leg. Authorities speculate that the attack may have been an act of retaliation. Around 12:15 p.m., Hyde was seated in a black Mazda Tribute with 4 companions en route to the river when the group made a stop to purchase supplies. While 2 of the passengers entered the supermarket, a white, heavily tinted suburban SUV pulled up and positioned itself to block their vehicle. A male shooter dressed in a long-sleeve shirt exited the back passenger side of the SUV and unleashed a barrage of fire, reportedly discharging more than 15 rounds at the Mazda. Hyde was the only individual injured in the incident and was swiftly transported to the Western Regional Hospital, where his condition is currently reported as stable. Surveillance footage from the vicinity captured the frantic moments as the passengers hastily exited the vehicle in a bid to escape the gunfire, forming crucial evidence for an ongoing investigation by local law enforcement. Authorities are investigating potential connections between these shooting and the previous violent incidents linked to Ryan Hyde and his associates, who allegedly harbor suspicions about Jamal Hyde's involvement in a prior shooting at Ryan's home.
Investigation revealed that Jamal Hyde was in a Mazda vehicle when an occupant from a suburban vehicle fired several shots towards his vehicle, causing the injury to him. There were 2 other persons in the Mazda, but they were not injured. Jamal Hyde has since been treated and released from the hospital. The vehicle involved in the shooting has been recovered and several persons are in custody pending investigation. They have some feud amongst themselves, and that is what led to this shooting.
The police believe that Jamal Hyde and his
Yeah, at some point the Suburban came upon the Mazda, because the Mazda had been to several places in Belmopan prior to the shooting. There was a firearm recovered, and again, investigation is being carried out to determine if it can be linked to the shooting.
So, do you have anybody detained?
Yes, there are several persons detained.
Great developments are awaited as the investigation continues. Police are investigating a shooting that occurred on Iguana Street, Belize City on Sunday afternoon at around 12:50. Reports are that two gunmen on a motorcycle opened fire on the victims before fleeing the scene. The injured have been identified as Marilee Richards, 56, Edgar Chuck, 36, and a 12-year-old who are recuperating at the KHMH.
Investigation revealed that they were sitting in a yard on Iguana Street when a motorcycle came to the area. A person came off the motorcycle and fired several shots towards the direction. We have several persons in custody at this time. Information revealed that a person that was at the yard was the intended target, but he was not shot.
Is it in any way related to the previous shooting on the street?
We have some information that it may be related, so we are doing follow-up work on it.
Are police concerned about that area?
Yes, it is of concern, so we will do several operations and bring in the persons from those areas to try to prevent any further retaliation.
Is there anyone detained?
Yes, there are several persons in custody at this time.
Are these persons believed to be affiliated to any of the gangs that have
Yeah, they are affiliated to that group in the Iguana Street extension as well as Neil Penn Road.
So, do police believe it was gang related?
Again, it is we have some information that it may be retaliation for that previous shooting that happened last week.
The victims are reported to be in stable condition. The motive behind the shooting remains unclear. The relatives of Margarita Avila, a 52-year-old grandmother from Belize, are appealing for understanding and support as she remains in the custody of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, following a reported confrontation with a U.S. Postal Service worker. Avila is accused of assaulting the mail carrier with a weed eater during a landscaping job in Spring, Texas, a claim her family asserts misrepresents the true nature of the incident. Avila, who has called the United States home since 2001 after fleeing threats from drug cartels in Belize, faces charges of assault causing bodily injury. Despite her bond being set at only $100, the case has escalated into a potential deportation situation due to her unresolved immigration status. According to reports, the altercation occurred while Avila was mowing grass near a whale box. Officials allege that the postal employee approached her and gently tapped her shoulder to request she move out of the way. During this exchange, it is said that Avila swung the weed eater, striking the worker and causing visible injuries. However, her daughter, Lisbeth Azucena Avila, claims her mother was acting in self-defense, asserting that the postal worker was the initial aggressor, having struck her mother and knocked her goggles off. Here is what she told Fox 26 News.
A Houston family claims a wrongful arrest led to the ICE detention of 50-year-old Margarita Avila. She faces charges for assaulting a postal worker last week, but her family disputes the allegation and has video they say supports their claim. Fox 26's Abigail Dye reports.
Last week, we told you that someone attacked a postal worker with a weed whacker near this cluster mailbox in the Willow area of Spring. That information is from this Harris County Constable Precinct 4 press release.
After she allegedly attacked a woman with a weed eater, 50-year-old Margarita Avila was weeding the grass by a mailbox in Spring when a postal worker asked if she could step back and tapped her on the shoulder. That's when she allegedly attacked the victim.
Why are they portraying our mother like this? This is not who she is.
That's her daughter, Lisbeth Avila. She wanted to find out the full story, so she came out here.
So we went and we started asking neighbors for videos or statements.
She just starts backing up.
That's when they start like wrestling, and she's grabbing, like trying to take the weed eater from her. So I don't know if she thinks she's getting robbed. The only thing that she was doing was defending herself. And this video proves that she was not attacking anybody.
Jacqueline Esqueda, a family member, says she was here when this happened.
I see her trying to wrestle the weed eater from her hands, and she's screaming for help. And you just feel so helpless, because what are you supposed to do? I mean, I'm pregnant, so I just immediately started recording.
Avila was arrested and charged with assault.
The police were very dismissive about it, because she did keep saying that she was punched and she was touched first.
According to her family, Avila is in the U.S. legally with a pending immigration status.
Your mom was going through a legal process to get asylum, correct?
Yes, so she is in process. She's been checking in for years now with ICE.
Her family says that any felony charge is a violation of that status. So even though Avila posted her $100 bond, she's currently being held by ICE.
They're saying until this case is cleared, she will be held in there. So with her not actually doing this, we need her to be released, because she is not the attacker. She's the victim here. My mom has been in jail since March 12th. This needs to be investigated further, and the truth needs to come out fully, and the right people need to be held accountable. That includes Precinct 4.
We reached out to Precinct 4 and the Harris County DA about these developments. We're awaiting their response. For Fox 26 News, I'm Abigail Dye.
Bystander footage captures the two women grappling on the ground, yet the videos do not show the beginning of the incident, raising significant questions about what transpired. The U.S. Postal Service has acknowledged that the worker is cooperating with internal management, but has yet to initiate a formal investigation. The Avila family is now primarily concerned about the potential ramifications of the situation, particularly Margarita's looming deportation to Belize, a country she fled over 2 decades ago. Lisbeth has publicly reached out to President Donald Trump in hopes of attaining a compassionate resolution. The family emphasizes that Margarita has no criminal history and has dedicated her life to working as a landscaper to provide for her children and grandchildren. Community members are coming together in support of her release, with immigration advocates demanding fairness and urging ICE to consider the nuances of her case. Mia Motley, the chair of the Caribbean Community CARICOM, has issued a grave alert regarding the economic fallout from the reciprocal tariffs enforced by the United States as part of President Donald Trump's Liberation Day initiative. In a recent speech, Motley conveyed that these tariffs, which primarily target Chinese imports, pose a significant risk of disrupting supply chains, leading to increased prices for essential goods throughout the Caribbean. Motley pointed out the Caribbean's heavy dependence on imported products from the United States, making the region particularly susceptible to upheavals in global trade. The CARICOM chair emphasized that the consequences of these tariffs would be experienced universally across the Caribbean, affecting consumers irrespective to their financial standing. Motley further remarked that the Caribbean's economic fragility leaves it open to such global trade fluctuations, indicating that even attempts to diversify local economies will not provide sufficient protection. Motley also expressed concern about the potential adverse effects on the Caribbean's essential tourism industry, suggesting that economic difficulties in major markets could hinder travel to the region. Moreover, Motley directly reached out to President Trump, stating, "I want to convey to President Trump that our economies pose no risk to yours. They are far too small to exert any negative or distorting influence on the American economy. I ask that you reflect on the long-standing friendship between our nations and consider the familial ties that bind us. Let's engage in dialogue and work together." To foster economic resilience, Motley has suggested a variety of measures aimed at enhancing self-sufficiency and regional cooperation while addressing the Caribbean's trade vulnerabilities. She recommended immediate actions, including reestablishing high-level dialogues with the United States and acknowledging the benefits of mutual cooperation, particularly through programs like the Caribbean Basin Initiative. Motley noted the Caribbean's limited size and manufacturing capabilities prevent it from distorting trade, emphasizing the importance of U.S. support for Caribbean exports as outlined in the initiative. Highlighting the need for unity, Motley advocated for avoiding political divisions for self-serving purposes so that the region could collectively confront shared economic challenges. United, we stand. Divided, we fall, she asserted. Another significant recommendation from Motley was to ramp up investments in Caribbean agriculture and light manufacturing, advocating for more ambitious local production goals. In addition, Motley encourages the public to support local products, urging consumers to choose local by regional. Her final recommendation involved broadening trade partnerships with nations across Africa, Central and Latin America, while also rekindling relations with established partners such as the UK, Europe, and Canada. We cannot rely on just one or two markets. We must strive to sell our Caribbean goods in a more diverse and stable global marketplace. And while at a regional scope, all eyes are on the tariff imposition and its ramifications, locally government is also doing its part to come up with response measures to alleviate the impact of the worldwide trade tariffs. For opposition leader Tracy Tager Panton, it will take a collective approach to come up with solutions.
We need to pay keen attention to what is happening in the global context. We all have heard the saying that when the U.S. sneezes, Belize catches a cold. The tariffs will, in my opinion, raise the cost of living exponentially for Belizeans, and that is something that requires us all to put our best minds to the table to find the solutions, particularly for those who are most marginalized and vulnerable in our country. But I certainly think that it requires all hands on deck. That is what I mean when I say all hands on deck. The government, the opposition, it requires civil society, it requires the business community for us to sit down and come up with a strategic and comprehensive plan on how we are going to address this new development.
Coming up next, Belize Peace Movement challenges voters list in High Court, citing unfulfilling redistricting promises. Stay tuned.
Escape into a world where secrets spill and drama unfolds.
It can't be for nothing. We won't even let this be for nothing.
Prepare for the fallout, a poignant exploration of the aftermath of a tragedy that changes everything. Stream The Fallout on HBO Max, available with Centaur.
Name's Tyson, welcome to Tulsa.
Dive into an adventure like never before with Express Plus app. Experience the thrill of power and redemption with Tulsa King.
This situation is not going to be controllable for much longer.
Unlock the secrets of the supernatural with a discovery of witches. Enter the epic saga of Yellowstone.
I'm ready. Who runs this valley?
Tap into your inner warrior with Marvel's Iron Fist.
How many times a night you light that fist up?
All these incredible stories and more are ready for you with the Express Plus app, streaming entertainment.
The U.S. Embassy in Belize is urgently seeking public assistance in the search for 2-year-old Makeda Julia Davis, who was allegedly taken by her mother in violation of U.S. court orders. The child, who last seen in San Ignacio, and authorities believe that she may have been taken across the border into Mexico. The embassy has characterized the situation as a parental abduction case and is working closely with local Belizean law enforcement officials as well as international partners to locate the child. In light of the seriousness of the situation, the embassy has circulated a missing person flyer and is offering a reward of $1,000 for any information leading to the recovery of Makita. Authorities are urging the public to remain vigilant and report any tips regarding the child's whereabouts. Individuals can contact local law enforcement by dialing 922-TIPS or send an email to ocibelize@state.gov. The embassy emphasized the importance of immediate reporting and has assured the public that any information provided will be handled with confidentiality. They hope to work swiftly with the Belizean authorities to ensure Makita's safe return. In a pivotal moment for the United Democratic Party, opposition leader Tracy Panton held the long-anticipated National Party Council meeting on Saturday, a key event in the party's effort to rebuild and unify. However, the shadow of ongoing discussions within the UDP regarding potential constitutional changes looming over the gathering, particularly in light of a pending ruling by Justice Andorra on the legitimacy of the UDP's October 20th convention. The meeting served as a formal platform for the National Party to strategize and strengthen its position in the political landscape. On the agenda was the unification of the party, village council elections, and a leadership convention scheduled to be held in 90 days in order to solidify the leadership team.
Constituency. The loyalty has to be to the people of this country, and the loyalty has to be in defending our democracy. We all agree on that. Everything will happen in this party in due course. It will happen conscientiously. It will happen constitutionally. I can tell you already, there are a number of new persons who are prepared to step up and support the party, to run for the party, but we're going to do things properly. And what we will not do is what Shan Barrow did to this party. We are going to follow the Constitution, and we are going to take things in due course.
No, there's a...
And with party members pushing for a resolution that would permit any party member, not just those elected in the National Assembly, to run for party leadership and even for deputy seats, Tager also has to ensure that she has a strong opposition team in Parliament. But with only 5 members and none as vocal as Patrick Faber, can she pull it off?
In the past 5 years.
Just sit back and watch. We are going to do the work of the opposition, not only in the National Assembly. You will be retired, Jules. You won't have to be the sole opposition in this country. There's certainly going to be a team that is ready to take on the issues in the interest of the people and the country.
Parliament aside, how will the opposition deal with operational cost? According to Tager Panton, there are those who are willing to pose as financiers for the party.
There are many UDP supporters, stalwarts, people who have served this country and the party long and hard, who have committed to the work of rebuilding, and that comes with the resources that we need. And we will do it just the way every other party leader has done it. One step at a time, one day at a time, one hurdle at a time. We will rebuild the United Democratic Party. And take note of it, today is
April 5th.
April 5th, 2025. We will be the government in 2030. Man, if we have to have one barbecue every month, we will find the money to rebuild the party.
In her remarks, Tracy Panton acknowledged the push for constitutional reform within the UDP, stressing the need for a comprehensive review of the Constitution. It could go as long as 6 months, Panton explained. She reassured party members that this review process could entail thorough consultation, emphasizing that constitutional reform is now a top priority for the party. The Belize Peace Movement BPM today reappeared before the High Court in Belize City. The case stems from a motion filed against the Election and Boundaries Commission, arguing that the overall voters list known as Schedule 1 doesn't meet constitutional requirements. The BPM is arguing that it has been years since the government of Belize promised to redistrict the country's 31 constituencies to ensure each has a nearly equal number of voters as outlined in the Constitution. In court this morning, the defendants petitioned for the case to be struck out on the basis that the current case before the docket has already been resolved in court in a previous submission.
The backdrop of this is that the court had late last year issued orders requesting that the parties file submissions on why the matter ought to be struck out. We presented arguments today that focused on 2 points. The first is that we said the matter was res judicata, meaning there is a previous case, the Parker Smith case, if you recall, from back in 2019, which addressed similar issues and in which 6 of the 7 claimants today were also involved. And so we advanced arguments to say that this is abusive. This matter has already been decided by the court, and in fact a consent order was issued by the court that was agreed to by all the parties and that addressed the very same arguments that are being advanced by the claimants, that is malapportionment. But importantly, I think it's important to note that the cabinet last week, I believe, issued a press release in which they committed to facilitate the process of redistricting. So really this entire case is moot because the constitutionally envisioned process is now in motion. My instructions are that the Elections and Boundaries Commission is fully prepared and is on standby, ready, willing and able to carry out whatever duties they're required to do under the Constitution.
What about
This matter, according to attorney for the Elections and Boundaries, Hector Guerra, was also made moot following a commitment made by Cabinet last week in which it commits to facilitate the Commission to ensure that the redivisioning exercise will be completed in 1 year.
Well, that really is a red herring. We say so. Why do we say so? The Elections and Boundaries Department, as you recall, was required under the consent order to produce a report in terms of the redistricting of the electoral boundaries. That report was produced, but the claimants, being aware of the report, never sought to challenge that report. And so the simple point is this. If you want to challenge it, you must challenge it at the appropriate time. The press release by the cabinet has now said that the government is prepared to carry out the obligations it's required to do under the Constitution. A new process has now commenced. Anybody who keeps abreast of the developments must act on their rights. It is their duty to be properly advised and to come before the court in the proper fashion. There is a method and there are rules that govern procedure in terms of court proceedings.
Is it correct to say that a judicial review, though, could not have been brought on the report itself because judicial review has to be done on a law and the report has not even passed?
That is not so. Judicial review, all governmental agencies, all statutory bodies, all bodies that are formed under the Constitution are subject to judicial review in terms of decisions, reports, any statutory obligation that they're required to undertake.
The claimants, however, have a different take on the matter and today argue that the case previously heard before the courts is not the same as the one now submitted by the BPM attorney Hubert Elrington, who was holding brief for attorney for the BPM Sharon Pitts explained their position.
We are saying to the Elections and Boundaries Commission, you have a duty not to hold any old election. Your election must be constitutional, and we are going to bring you to the court to compel you to do that if you don't know what your duty is, and if the Attorney General of Belize does not know what he should advise you. We are going to bring you, despite his defects and shortcomings, he is the one that should have been fighting for us. You see, we were depending on the Attorney General to fight for us. He has let us down badly, so we have had to come ourselves. Thanks to these gentlemen from VIP. I was amazed when I read their application. They have decided to step up front. So the issue as to whether the schedule to the Europa representation of the People's Act, ROPA, representation of the People Act. The question as to whether the proposals put forward in this purported exercise of its constitutional function by the Election and Boundaries Constitution, that has never come before any law, any court. It is a new matter, so this idea or this application to declare them or to strike them out because they are sub judice, they have been heard and dealt with by the court before, is clearly nonsensical.
After hearing submissions by both parties, Judge Tawanda Ondora reserved his decision to a later date. The Protected Areas Conservation Trust Pact and the Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future Belize Fund signed a memorandum of understanding which goes to formalize a partnership between the two entities to enhance conservation financing for Belize's National Protected Areas System, NPAS. Today's signing of a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, according to Minister of Sustainable Development Honorable Orlando Habet, marks a significant step in ensuring coordinated and effective financing for the country's protected areas and natural resources.
Yes, this Memorandum of Understanding is very significant because it brings together PACT and the Belize Fund for a Sustainable Future, which are two organizations. One has more than 30 years, PACT, and the other one is an initiative that started about 3 years ago. But both that have been working on conservation and also looking at financing for conservation. Of course, PAC having some more experience and the staff who have been there for some time, and also because they also have a finance unit that looks at climate finance and especially through the Adaptation Fund. And the BSFS who have been there for, as I mentioned, 3 years ago, but have been looking at more specifically at marine conservation, especially at marine protected areas. It is really a private organization which came out of the Blue Bond, but it needs support. So I think by bringing together the resources from staff, personnel, looking at the finance mechanisms that are out there and the actual finance that is available. Many times you can't really be competing for the same finance, especially coming to the same country. So I think that coming together that way and trying to focus on what they want and planning together, it might be a way of trying to get those climate finances for conservation a lot easier. But also that I believe that one thing that they can also do is, whilst Belize is also very well known and a leader in conservation, with both of them coming together, the marketing might be a lot better so that then you can easily get those organizations internationally that will be able to come in and bring in those finances. And as mentioned, I think by Dr. Ricketson and our CEO at PAC, that we will be able to have these forums in Belize, trying to get organizations and countries outside of Belize to come to Belize so that then we can have these forums where we can market Belize a lot better. I think that it is a plus for us going forward. And a memorandum of understanding is a memorandum of understanding. As we know, it is not a legally binding document, but we will work together to make it such that we can work together.
This agreement sets the foundation for collaboration in key areas, including joint resource mobilization, standardized conservation financing policies, stakeholder engagement, and coordinated participation in international conservation forums. The partnership also seeks to increase public awareness of conservation efforts through joint campaigns and a National Conservation Summit in 2025.
I think it's, instead of going two separate ways, trying to come together to seek those finances, as I mentioned, but looking at how maybe in the marine space where maybe less funding has been going out, that we can identify those specific and focus areas that we want for development, because Belize has to also look at the sustainable part of conservation, which is finding those that might be good for tourism, and so that then you can also bring in some income for the country, and looking at those communities that also need to be engaged, have some consultations with them, but certainly to do some capacity building, and so that they can also be part of the income generation for their communities and for themselves.
The MOU will be in effect for 5 years, with both organizations conducting regular assessments and the joint initiatives that enhance Belize's conservation landscape. And there is more news after the break. Stay tuned.
Really? You not switch yet? You know what? I tell you, I don't.
You used to call me on my cell phone, late night just to stay in touch. Call me on my cell phone, cause our connection used to mean so much. And I know when that thought line bling, February's got that love to bring. Yeah, I know when that thought line bling, Smart is giving you everything. These days all I do is wonder if you're still connected with somebody else. Wonder why you're missing out on what's best for yourself. You could have had more, but you're still stuck with them. You don't need no one else, you don't need nobody else. So it's time to switch up a brand, cause Smart's the best in the land. They got the top speed and the best service for your phone. You should just switch to them, it's smarter, no one else. You used to call me on my cell phone.
There's a war going on against Christianity in this country.
Meet the Righteous Gemstones, a hilarious, outrageous family of televangelists with more scandals than sermons. Stream The Righteous Gemstones on HBO Max, available with Centaur.
Name's Tyson, welcome to Tulsa.
Dive into an adventure like never before with Express Plus app. Experience the thrill of power and redemption with Tulsa King.
This situation is not going to be controllable for much longer.
Unlock the secrets of the supernatural with a discovery of witches. Enter the epic saga of Yellowstone.
I'm ready. Who runs this valley?
Tap into your inner warrior with Marvel's Iron Fist.
How many times a night you light that fist up?
All these incredible stories and more are ready for you with the Express Plus app, streaming entertainment.
Minister of Sustainable Development, Honorable Orlando Habet, today also spoke on issues which the ministry is currently facing regarding garbage transfer stations across the country. In Belmopan, there have been many complaints filed of overflowing of garbage at the transfer station, which happens to be along the highway and in clear sight of daily commuters. These issues, according to Minister Habet, are being looked into with a view to completely revamp the station in Belmopan and others across the country, which have been experiencing issues for several months.
We've been having some problems really countrywide in all the transfer stations. I think that part of the problem is that as Belize becomes more affluent, people consume more. Not only do we consume more from what we buy locally, but people have access to Amazon products and there's all these trucks that come in from the US and bring in products. So there's a lot more waste. So there's a lot more disposal. The contracts that were given out maybe 3 or 4 years ago may not be sufficient to be able to pull out all the garbage from the transfer stations. Another problem that exists is that I think the original concept was mistaken. It wasn't done properly. One, the transfer stations were put right beside the roadside where it could have been put a quarter mile in so that even if you had some problems, it would be visible to the public. The transfer station itself has some ramps where some trucks that are loaded, example, that in Dangriga, the trucks can't even go up because it is too steep, and then with the weight, it can't go up, so they dump outside. The other thing is that the new way of doing transfer of solid waste to the national landfills is not to put it in a transfer station. It is the truck that gets it, compacts it, rolls it sort of in a bale, and then it's put into the truck that's going to transfer it to the landfill. So you don't have to put it in a transfer station. So that's a problem. And also the contractors. If sometimes the contractors don't have the capacity, or at least when they put in their bids, they show that they have, but sometime along the way, they clearly indicate that they don't have the capacity of moving the garbage as the way the contract states, for them to be able to clean up all that is going on. So what you see in these transfer stations is that many times what they're doing is moving the new one, but the old one still stays there. So there is a capacity problem. But in discussion with the Director for Solid Waste Management and my new CO, what we are looking at is to see if we can make an estimate of what is out there and to see if we can estimate the tonnage and what it will cost to move it to the national landfill and start all over again, so that then we remove that sore eyesight that's out there.
And then, sir,
the Ministry of Economic Transformation, MET, has successfully completed a joint Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, and International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, in-country mission for the Program for Sustainable and Inclusive Belize. The mission took place from March 31st to April 4th, 2025, and aimed to solidify plans for agricultural development that prioritize sustainability and inclusivity. During the mission, representatives from MET, IDB, and IFAD engaged in comprehensive discussions to contextualize key components vital to enhancing the agricultural sector in Belize. Areas of focus included direct support for smallholder farmers, producer groups, and micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, as well as the establishment of enabling environments, the promotion of gender equality, and strategies aimed at empowering youth by improving their access to productive resources. The mission involved collaboration with critical ministries, including the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security, and Enterprise, and the Central Executing Unit within the Ministry of Finance. It also included site visits to key locations in San Antonio, Cayo District, Hope Creek Village, and Santa Cruz Village in Stand Creek District to assess local needs and opportunities for development. The mission marks a pivotal step towards aligning the objectives of Plan Belize and the medium-term development strategy with Belize's broader economic transformation goals. On the 4th of April 2025, Her Excellency Amalia Mai, Chief Executive Officer of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade and Culture, concluded the National Border Patrol Officers Attachment Program with a final session in Belize City alongside the CARICOM Secretariat and participating border officials. The meeting summarized 4 days of national consultations and visits to border control areas in Belize. This program contributes to the region's efforts to strengthen the capabilities of border officials and support the ideals of the Caribbean Single Market and Economy, CSME. As part of the program, 16 border officials from Barbados, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, and Suriname began sharing their experiences at the Belize Western Border Station in Benquevejo del Carmen between Belize and Guatemala. There, they received an overview of the Immigration, Customs, and Belize Agricultural Health Authority (BAHA) processes. The delegation visited the Belize Northern Border Station in Santa Elena, Corozal, where they observed passenger arrival and departure processes. Additional site visits included the Philip Golson International Airport, the Belize Port Authority, Big Creek Port, and Ecumenical High School in Dangriga. At the high school, participants engaged with students by presenting the work carried out in their respective countries. Belize highlighted several best practices, particularly the strong collaboration between BAHA, the Customs and Excise Department, and the Immigration Department. Measures such as the implementation of fees to deter the importation of prohibited goods and to penalize individuals who overstay their permitted time. Belize also expressed its openness to further improvements by welcoming recommendations such as integrating BAHA into the ASICUDA world system and increasing the visibility of health officials at border control points. Ambassador Amalia Mai was joined by senior officials from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade, Culture, and Immigration. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Tuesday, April 8th here on Ctv3 News and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/ctv3belizenews or our YouTube channel at Ctv3 News BZ. From all of us here at Ctv3 News, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.